It's draft day. And in true draft day fashion, I will start with this offensive line, no matter what. Let's discuss.
You are Locked On Cardinals, your daily Arizona Cardinals podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Alex Clancy here. Follow me on Twitter, Clancy's Corner. Follow the podcast at Locked On Easy Cards. Thank you for making Locked On Cardinals your first listen, free wherever you get your podcast, and on YouTube, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Today's episode is brought to you by LinkedIn. LinkedIn Jobs helps you find the qualified candidates you want to talk to faster. Post your job for free at linkedin.com/LockedOnNFL. Terms and conditions apply. Terms and conditions apply to my phrase, offensive line no matter what. Sure. It's going to have a lot to do with what happens between 1 through 15. It's going to have a lot to do with what happens regarding offensive line picks between 1 through 15. As we get closer to the draft, teams start to wise up. Mock drafts start to wise up. Oh, offensive line is pretty important. Maybe they should nab an offensive lineman instead of drafting a wide receiver in the top 12. Interesting. What have I said? What have I continued to say? Offensive line, no matter what. There are some caveats to that, but by and large, that's where it should be. It's what I've said all along. It's still where I think it should be. You protect Kyler Murray, or none of this is going to work. Is it worth trading back into the first round, like I've alluded to over the course of this week, with the impetus of Josh Weinfuss, Arizona Cardinals writer for ESPN, tweeting out, paraphrasing here, that he spoke to somebody who said, don't be surprised if the Cardinals move back into the tail end of the first round to draft a developmental piece. Okay. Is it worth doing that with the lack of draft capital the Cardinals have compared to years past, the last 2 years specifically, and what it would cost to move back into the first round? And we know a lot going into this draft regarding what the Cardinals need, where they should avoid, what they're good at, or what they're good with regarding position. And one thing remains clear. Monty leads the way. Everybody else follows. And it's important to put that in perspective as we're on the precipice of draft 3 for Monty Ossenfort. And I'll go down the last couple years, especially with Michael Bidwell, how he's changed his tune and how he's removed himself from watching film with the GM and the head coach after game day, which is what, was just run-of-the-mill stuff that was going on just a couple years ago. Again, please go to the YouTube channel, search Locked On Arizona Cardinals, hit that subscribe button, turn notifications on. Thank you for being a part of this with me. This is your show. I'm just the big dumb face that spearheads it and hosts it. Offensive line, no matter what. So it's hysterical how quick things change in such a forceful manner as the draft approaches. Now we're looking at potentially 5 offensive linemen going in the top 15. 5? Kelvin Banks was looked as a guy who would be taken in the 20s. Josh Simmons was looked to be a guy to be taken in the late 20s. And you had the 2 dudes in the top 6. They were going to go there no matter what. So when you look at the Cardinals and you look at where, for me, is the number one biggest position of need that can make the biggest movement right away is offensive line. They have a couple things to balance here. One, do you take one no matter what? And I'll throw Gray Zabel in there as well. Do you take one no matter what? No, that's not this, okay? So say there are 6 offensive linemen that go before the Cardinals. Maybe you look around and you say, oh, maybe there is an interior defensive lineman that would normally go in the top 10, but is there falling into their lap. Or you go best corner, whether it be Johnny Barron or Will Johnson at 16. Like, I'm not saying the Cardinals should blindly go in and say, offensive line, I don't care who it is, offensive line, take them. Not what I'm saying. But I'm saying if things don't go banana sandwich like they do a lot of times, where it's like 5 offensive linemen taken before the Cardinals go, maybe you shift, because the point of this is the reason why I've been preaching offensive line first is because it's a deep pass rusher draft. It's a deep defensive tackle draft. And if the Cardinals can get the second or third best offensive lineman off the board and not a very deep offensive line class, you do it. And then in the second round at 47, if you stay there, you can get fringe first round talent at 47, whether it be interior defensive line or pass rush. or corner for that matter. So there's a couple names. Okay, Kelvin Banks looks to be going top 10. Right when I mentioned him, it's like, whoop, he's moving up. I'm not saying I'm the reason. That's ridiculous. I'm just saying that, like, it just happened that day when we were talking about him getting mocked to the Cardinals, now he's potentially going 10 picks earlier. It's crazy. Josh Simmons was in the late 20s. Now he was mocked by Benjamin Albright, who does a fantastic job. He's, he works in the Denver market, but he's got, national ties. He has some good inside information for all teams. And he has the Cardinals in his one mock that he does always the day before the draft. He has the Cardinals taking Josh Simmons at 16. Now, listen, Josh Simmons is an interesting one, okay, because he was injured, okay? Justin Fry, offensive line coach for Ohio State, is now the offensive line coach for the Arizona Cardinals. Josh Simmons can play right tackle. He sits a chunk of a year behind Jonah Williams, and then he's ready to rip next year. Or you could have him play at guard and then spot move him to right tackle if Jonah Williams isn't cutting it. Gray Zabel at 16. I know that this is technically a reach. I know it's a reach, but he won't be there at 47. So if the Cardinals want to shore up the interior of the offensive line with a guy who can play all 5 positions, but primarily the interior of the offensive line, I would have no problem with them taking him at 16. Because listen, they don't have a backup plan if Yalta Frold gets injured. And you don't, obviously, this is what I say, and I will never feel bad for saying this too much. You never wish anybody to get injured, whether it be your worst rival or somebody that on a team that you're a fan of or that you cover. Obviously, it doesn't matter. Never want to see anybody get injured. But you need to have contingency plans. And is Evan Brown the contingency plan for the Cardinals at center? They can do better. Is John Gaines the contingency plan for the Cardinals at center? They can do better. And I don't care that he went to a Dakota State school. I don't care. If he's there at 16 and the Cardinals see him as the guy that can be the dude at this position, you take him. We don't know what's a reach and what isn't. We won't know for like 2 years. So the only caveats to this for me are 5 offensive linemen go in the top 15, which means with that, there's probably going to be 2 quarterbacks, so that's 7 picks. And then, you've got Ashton Genty, that's 8. You've got Abdul Carter, that's 9. You got Travis Hunter, that's 10. You've probably got a wide receiver in there, that's 11. And then you're going to have another pass rusher or 2, and then 2 interior defensive linemen. So if there's 5 offensive linemen taken before the Cardinals, on top of what the other positions I just mentioned, and Will Johnson or Jahdae Barron sitting there, fine. That it's like, this isn't, again, going blind, offensive line, whoever, it doesn't matter who it is. Get him. It doesn't matter who it is, get him. That's not this. Barring something like that, it is. Now, the fascinating part about this, it's just I wasn't even going to really bring this up, but the fascinating part about this is if there is a big rush of offensive linemen in the first 15, the Cardinals 100% will get calls to move back for a team to move up and draft a wide receiver. Definitely. Or Omarion Hampton. I mean, or the Henderson kid out of Ohio State, like Travion Henderson. There's going to be backs taken in the first 25. If not 2, 3. Or if not 3, 2. And the Cardinals can move back, maybe get a second rounder, depending on how much hardball they want to play, get a third rounder this year, depending on how much hardball they want to play, move back, and still get a Gray Zabel or somebody like that in the mid-20s, because there's then going to be a run. I didn't even mention tight ends with Tyler Warren going to go in the top 15. Like, it's interesting to look at it this way. And all I do on the show is treat you like adults and give you perspective and give you other things to think about that could potentially happen. Either a bunch of offensive linemen go, the Cardinals trade back. If very few offensive linemen go, the Cardinals draft an offensive lineman at 16. Either way, they're going to get massive value for their pick. Either way. And you trade back and you just don't draft an offensive lineman there. Like, it opens up the world to so many different things. What I'm saying is, for offensive line, no matter what, At 16, barring 5 going before them, offensive linemen, no matter what. Now, is it worth trading back into the first round? I don't know. I don't know. Let's talk it through next. This episode of Locked On Cardinals is brought to you by our friends over at Monarch Money. You ever check your bank account and wonder where all the money go? Between dining out, online shopping, and entertainment, it's easy to lose track, and that's where Monarch Money comes in, your personal CFO, giving you full visibility and control over your finances. And Monarch Money isn't just a budgeting app, man. It's a complete financial command center. You can track all your accounts, investments, and spending all in one place, so you just stop managing your money and start building wealth. Take control over your finances with Monarch Money. Use code LOCKEDONNFL at monarchmoney.com for 50% off your first year. That's monarchmoney.com, code LOCKEDONNFL for 50% off your first year. This episode of Locked On Cardinals is also brought to you by the Game Time app. I love the Game Time app. There's nothing like the atmosphere of an NBA playoff game. Maybe the Suns will feel it again at some point. Every bucket, every defensive stop, every moment feels huge. It's electric in the arena, and with Game Time, you can be part of it without the stress of last-minute ticket hunting. Game Time makes it easy and fast to get playoff tickets. Even when demand is high, it is super sky high. Prices on the app actually go down as tip-off gets closer, and their last-minute deals can save you up to 60%. They've also got the view from your seat feature. You can click on tickets before you buy them, and you'll get a panoramic view of the seat before you buy the tickets. You get to see what your vantage point will be before you pay any of your hard-earned cheese. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account. Use code LOCKEDONNFL for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code LOCKEDON NFL for $20 off. Download Game Time today. Last-minute tickets, lowest price, guaranteed. 16 is such a fun spot. It's such a fun spot. Now, of course, it's a double-edged sword because you only have so much control over, who you get to pick. And luckily, the Cardinals have 3 position groups, if not 4, that they can choose from. Now, if they take an edge at 16, it's not going to be a bad day. As long as they don't take a quarterback or running back at 16, we're good. I mean, there's even an outside chance they could take a safety there at 16, who would be the top safety off the board. Either way, either of all of the ways, they've got options. Stay, trade back. The trade-up thing is, I think, something that is, unless they can move up 4 picks and just give up a 4th-round pick or something, I don't see that happening. They have too many needs and too many guys. Now, say Kelvin Banks drops to 12, and you want to leapfrog Miami, and you give a 3rd-round pick to move up a couple spots, you want to get your right tackle for the future, or your left tackle and move Paris Johnson Jr. back to the right, okay. But I just, they're not touching their 2nd-round pick to move up. So it kind of limits what they do. Now, I just take that, I don't see that happening. Whether they stick at 16, trade back, whatever it is, they've got options, and they're going to be able to utilize their big board with the 4 different position groups that they need in the first round and take the best one available from any of the groups. I just think it should be offensive line. Now, is it worth trading back into the first round? So let's say the least amount of picks that they move up to trade back in the first round is 15. And at that point, would it really be worth it? Would you rather trade up towards the middle top of the 2nd round and maybe only have to give up a 4th, then trade all the way back into the 20s? I discussed yesterday, it's listen, if you're going to move all the way back up into the 20s and move 20 spots up, you probably have to give your 2nd this year, which obviously your 3rd this year and your 2nd next year or something. It would have to be a lot. And if you do that, swing for the fences. You're not going to do that for a hopeful starter in the interior defensive line. You're not going to do that for a hopeful edge rusher. The edge rusher who's going to be bona fide starters are going to be gone already. Especially those who would warrant that move up. So I'd say if you're going to move back into the 2nd, draft the 3rd best wide receiver. Just swing for the fences. It's not going to ruin the future. 2025 and 2026, 50-50 on 2026. This is the year just to go wild. You can do whatever you want as long as you're not trading 3 first-round picks for anything, which they won't. I don't think it's worth trading back in the first round. Unless somebody drops precipitously. and it's somebody that you think is going to be a pillar for this team moving forward, which it's tough to believe, where you'd have to give up a second, a third, and a second next year to move up. I just don't know. Like, they can do it. They can do it. I just don't know if it'll be worth it. And this draft doesn't have those type of players to move all the way back into the 20s for, unless it's a wide receiver. And that's my thought process behind it. It's like, okay, the big name dudes aren't going to drop into the mid to late 20s. They're not, because there's very few of them. And of course, there are going to be names that will pop and become Pro Bowlers that people think are just average starters. It happens every draft. But you don't know who those guys are going to be. You know, Abdul Carter is going to be an impact maker. Travis Hunter, okay? Will Campbell, like, you know, certain guys, Tyler Warren, you know those guys are going to translate. It's just the chance of them not translating is so minimal, but all those guys are going to the top 12. So if you got to move 20 spots up or more, you're going to have to pay for it. And this is a world, like, I was going to do a full segment on this. I don't think it's necessary. Like, could you see a second-round pick in Bijan Ojulari getting the Cardinals back in the first round? Could you see a second-round pick in Darius Robinson getting into the first round? It would work against what the Cardinals are trying to do. And you're not trading a second-round pick in Jalen Thompson and getting back in the first round. So I don't understand how that would happen. Logistically speaking, the Cardinals don't have the draft capital. And if they do, you're giving a second, a third, and a fourth. You're giving all your picks this year to move up 25 spots. So does Monty Ossenfort see that as worth it, where he has a first-round grade on a pass rusher who is dropping and dropping and dropping, and he knows something that others don't, and he sees something that others don't, and he wants to mortgage not the future, just this draft on that hunch to move back in the second round or move back in the first round? Fine. And if he's wrong, it's not going to ruin the future. But I don't see that as being a viable option when you can take stabs at, like, you can draft a running back in the 5th or in the 4th, or draft a wide receiver in the 3rd and do what you normally do. You draft an interior defensive lineman in the 2nd or a pass rusher in the 2nd at 47. I think what's more likely to happen is the Cardinals to package something and move up from 47 to the late 30s, something like that. I could see that happening, where they give a 4th and move up 8 spots. I think that would be more palatable and obviously more doable because they're not moving up 20 plus spots in a draft that the meat is, between 25 and 70, and they've got picks. So if I were to gauge, if the Cardinals, say there's 2 options. The Cardinals trade back from 16 and 47. They move back from both to accumulate picks, or they stay at 16 and move up from 47. That doesn't make any sense to me. Now, the interesting one would be, this is the interesting one, and this is the one that would make the most sense because it's kind of doing what Paris Johnson, what the Cardinals did from 3 to 12 back up to 6 3 years ago. 2 drafts ago, because the third one hasn't happened yet. Is you trade back from 16, you pick up a 3rd round pick, you partner, or even a 2nd round pick if people want to move up from 27 to 16, and then you partner the picks that you just got with your 2nd round pick and move back in. I could see that, but that's the only way I can see the Cardinals moving back into the first round, is if they move back from 16, accumulate more picks, and then package those with the ones they have to move back in and move up 25 spots. I just don't see it. It doesn't make sense. It doesn't make sense to me. What I do know is Monty Ossenfort has earned the trust from most fans, aside from people who are saying, no, it's not working. It's like, okay, go shake your fist at a cloud, because that's what you're used to. It's Monty's rules. What does that mean, and why is it now stronger than ever? We'll discuss it next. Locked On Cardinals, your team every day. This episode of Locked On Cardinals is brought to you by LinkedIn. As a small business owner, your work doesn't end when the clock hits 5. Your business is always on your mind, which means when it's time to hire, you need a partner that works just as hard as you do, and that's where LinkedIn Jobs come in. When you clock out, LinkedIn clocks in. LinkedIn makes it easy to post your job for free, share it with your network, and get qualified candidates all in one place. Here's how it works, man. It's a post your job feature. It can help you write job descriptions and then quickly get your job in front of the right people with deep candidate insights. And here's a pro tip: add the hashtag hiring frame to your profile picture to double your reach to qualified candidates. No wonder 72% of small businesses say LinkedIn helps them find high quality hires. Post your job for free at linkedin.com/lockedonnfl. That's linkedin.com/lockedonnfl to post your job for free. Terms and conditions apply. It's so close. It's so close. We did it. This was the easiest, like, content-wise, this was the easiest end of season to draft we've ever had, like, that I've had. I mean, because free agency, they actually did something, which helped. That was a nice little, gap, a bridge between the two. But I'm jacked, dude. Like, these next 2 days specifically we have no idea what's going to happen, and that's great. And it's not something where it's like, oh, question mark. Hopefully he doesn't mess it up. Monty Ossenfort, although this year will be the true test, he's drafted who's in line to be a left tackle for the next decade, wide receiver 1 for the next decade, you'd hope. He brought in Yalta Frolt. He re-signed Budda Baker and Jalen Thompson. He drafted Adrian Taylor Demerson, drafted Garrett Williams, drafted Max Mountain, brought in Mac Wilson, brought in Kazir White in successive off seasons, who's been great. Traded, brought in Joshua. He's done everything that a rational human being would do that was rebuilding a roster from the studs. And it's obvious that he's in control of what happens. Now, sure, Jonathan Gannon is going to be, in his ear. Nick Rallis, Drew Petz, understood. And it is the perfect time to bring back, for those that don't remember, on the Cardinals flight plan with the Darius Robinson pick, the 5-minute, 7-minute clip when it was like in the teens or early 20s, and the Cardinals picked at 27. And Michael Bidwell went up to Monty Ossenfort on camera and said, "What are you thinking?" It's interesting. So that's where I was, like, how am I going to phrase this? Like, where is Michael Bidwell in this brain trust? He is the brain trust, of course, because he writes all the paychecks. So I coined the phrase, he's on the inside looking in instead of the outside looking in. He's on the inside, but he still doesn't have control over the situation, which is good. He put a football person in control of the situation. He hired the right person, and not just compared to the last one. He hired the right person in a vacuum for what the Cardinals needed. He's like Gordon Ramsay Hell's Kitchen to the Arizona Cardinals. So it's obvious that Monty Ossenfort has creative control. The man who signs his paychecks is chilling, but he's still asking, what's up? What are you thinking? What direction do you want to go? He didn't know Darius Robinson was 100% going to be the pick. An hour before the pick was supposed to happen. This is how it's supposed to be. This is how good leadership, and I'm not saying that Michael Bidwell is a good owner. I'm not saying Michael Bidwell has been a good boss to employees, whether it be players or all the harassment accusations and all that stuff. That's not what I'm saying, okay? What I am saying is the avatar of a good leader and a good boss hires the right people and lets them do their job. And that's what Michael Bidwell has done since firing the last regime. That's all I'm saying. I'm not saying that he's a good boss. I'm not saying he's a good leader. I'm not saying he doesn't have multiple harassment allegations and pending lawsuits against him. I'm saying that the avatar of a good boss and good leader hires the right people and lets them do their job. And that's what Michael Bidwell is doing. Just an existential statement. That's exactly what's happening right now. So whatever happens for the next 72 hours, the Cardinals are in good hands. there shouldn't be one person that's like, oh no, Monty Osborne's going to screw this up, because he has already. It's just completely irrational. It's completely irrational. So going into tonight, sit on your couch, your desk, at work, whatever it is, be a good employee. Don't just tape it or something. Breathe and understand that the Cardinals draft picks are in good hands. That may not mean a lot to some organizations, but it means the world to the Arizona Cardinals, their fans, and the people who've been covering them for 15 damn years. Let's enjoy it. Locked On Cardinals, your team every day. Remember, without you, there is no me. I'll be all over social media tonight. You can check out some YouTube shorts after the picks. We'll be in touch. I'll talk to you tomorrow.